Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Okay, if you want, we can all do it together. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devam Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayat Nashtra Prayeshu Badreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. Before reciting this Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances unto the personality of Godhead Narayan, unto Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. By regular attendance in classes on the Bhagavatam and by rendering service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed, and loving service unto the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. So today we are reading from the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Adi Leela, chapter 11. The name is The Expansions of Lord Nityananda, and we'll be doing verses 14 to 17. Verse 14 is on the board. Which way does this go to tighten?
Right, tighten.
Go this way or this way?
This way?
No, I was just doing the level. I was doing this.
Where do you want to go?
I just want to tighten this so it doesn't keep stooping down. Okay. Nityanande. Agya. I think it's Agya, right? Dila. Yabe. Gode. Yaite. Nityanande Agyadileya Begande Yaite Mahaprabhu Dwi Dila Tari Tanra Sate Mahaprabhu Edui Dila Tanra Sate Nityanande Agya Dila Yabe Gode Yaite Mahaprabhu Edui Dila Tanra Sate Nityanande Agya Dila Yabe Gode Yaite Mahaprabhu Edui Dila Tanra Sate Nityanande Agya Dila Yabe Gode Yaite Mahaprabhu Edui Dila Tanra Sate. Okay.
Nityanande Agya Dila Yabe Gode Yaite
Nityanande Agya Dila Yabe Gode Yaite
Mahaprabhu Edui Dila Tanra Sate
Mahaprabhu Edui Dila Tanra Sate Nityanande Agya Dila Yabe Gode Yaite Nityanande Agya Dila Yabe Gode Yaite Mahaprabhu Edui Dila Tanra Sate Mahaprabhu Edui Dila Tanra Sate
Nityanande Agya Dila Yabe Gode Yaite
Nityanande Agya Dila Yabe Gode Yaite Mahaprabhu ei dui lila chandra sate.
Nityanande,
Nityanande,
unto Lord Nityananda.
unto Lord Nityananda.
Agya,
Agya,
order.
order.
Dila,
Dila,
gave.
gave.
Yabe,
Yabe,
when.
when.
Gode,
Gode,
to Bengal.
to Bengal.
Yaite,
Yate,
to go.
to go.
Mahaprabhu,
Mahaprabhu,
Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu.
Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu.
A Dui,
Ei dui,
these two.
these two.
Dila,
Dila,
gave.
gave.
Tanrasate,
Chandra sate,
with him.
with him.
Okay. In the book we have verse 14 and 15 together. I think it would have been good to do them both. So I'm going to read the Bengali and then read the English. Ateva dui gane dunhara ganana madhava vasudeva go sherai vi go share Gosheroi e vivarana. Translation. When Nityananda Prabhu was ordered to go to Bengal to preach, these two devotees, Sri Ram Das and Gadadhar Das, were ordered to go with him. Thus, they are sometimes counted among the devotees of Lord Chaitanya and sometimes among the devotees of Lord Nityananda. Similarly, Madhava Ghosh and Vasudev Ghosh belonged to both groups of devotees simultaneously. Purport. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur writes in his Anubhasya, there is a place named Danihat near the Agra Dweep railway station and Patuli in the district of Burdwan, where the deity of Sri Gopinathji is still situated. This deity accepted Govinda Ghosh as his father. Even until today, the deity performs the Shraddha ceremony on the anniversary of the death of Govinda Ghosh. The temple of this deity is managed by the Rajvamsha family of Krishna Nagar, whose members are descendants of Raj Krishna Chandra. Every year in the month of Vaishakha, when there is a Baradola ceremony, this Gopinath deity is taken to Krishna Nagar. The ceremony is performed with 11 other deities, and then Sri Gopinathji is brought back to the temple in Agar Dweep. Okay, verse 16. Ramadasa Mukhya Sakha Sakya Prema Rasi Shola Sangera Kashtaye Tuli Kailavamshi. Ramdas, one of the chief branches, was full of fraternal love of Godhead. He made a flute from a stick with 16 knots. Verse 17. Gadadhara dasa gopi bhave purnananda yanragare danakeli kaila nityananda. Sri Gadadhar Das was always fully absorbed in ecstasy as a gopi. In his house, Lord Nityananda enacted the drama Danakeli. Okay, so one thing, I tried to look up a little bit of detail on this Baradola ceremony, and I really couldn't find anything. I don't know if it's related to the Shraddha ceremony. Would you know, Ramananda? This Baradola, is it related to the Shraddha ceremony? Okay. So I found it interesting that it says the ceremony is performed with 11 other deities. I did look online and I found a video of this Gopinath Baradola, but all the video showed was that he was on a cart and the pujari was doing arti and the devotees were there singing. So that's all I saw in the video. But I was thinking, I found it interesting that it says the ceremony, first of all, is performed every year. And Sri Gopinath Ji, he accepted Govinda Ghosh as his father, and so he still performs the Shraddha ceremony on the anniversary of the death of Govinda Ghosh. Now, it seems there's 3 brothers, Govinda Ghosh, Madhava Ghosh, and Vasudeva Ghosh, and they are kirtaniers extraordinaire, and they definitely are in one of the 7 parties at the Rath Yatra. And whenever they start singing, Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda start dancing in ecstasy. And we are told that they are actually the 3 gopis, Kalavati, Rasolasha, and Gunatunga. And in the spiritual world, they recite songs by Sri Vishaka. So they are very much appreciated for their skill in singing. And so I thought that it kind of sounds like with these 11 deities attending this Abharadola ceremony every year, I was thinking like it's kind of like a family reunion. And one thing I thought about was how Krishna, even though to our eyes in his deity form we see wood or metal, gold, like that, but actually Krishna is very much real and alive, and to the point where he engages in lots of different pastimes in his deity form with his different devotees. And I felt to dive into that a little bit, the different stories that we know where Krishna personally gets involved with his devotees, even though he's in a deity form. Now, the very famous story we know about is Shakshi Gopal, where a Brahmana went to a pilgrimage and was assisted by a young brahmachari, and he was so indebted to this brahmachari that he wanted to give him something. So he actually, even though he was from a high-class, wealthy family, he promised his daughter in marriage, and it was in front of the deity. And so the young brahmachari said, "Please don't be making this promise. We're in front of the deity and your family's never going to allow it." And the older brahmana was very insistent. And so, lo and behold, when they were finished their pilgrimage and went back to their village, the older brahmana announced to his family that he had done this, promised the daughter. And the family members were freaking out. The mother threatened to commit suicide. The brother was like, "It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen." So time went by and the brahmachari was concerned, the young brahmachari, that the brahmana had made this promise in front of the deity, and so it needed to happen. So he approached the elder and asked about the situation, and the family members, the brother specifically, was there and threatened to beat him up and all. So the brahmachari went back to the deity Shakshi Gopal and explained to him the situation and that he was witness to the promise, so what can happen? And the deity said, "Well, I can't go anywhere, I'm a deity, you know." And the brahmachari said, "Well, if you can talk, you can walk." So the deity said, "Okay," and he promised to follow him. And he said, "But when I'm following you, you'll hear the tinkling of my ankle bells, but don't look back." So they went, it was a far distance, and they went along, and everything was fine. And then all of a sudden, the brahmachari couldn't hear the tinkling anymore. And he got concerned, and so he turned around, and the deity was there. And the deity said, well, I told you not to turn around, and you did, so I'm here. Now you bring everybody here. And that's what happened. The brahmachari brought everybody. And they knew that there was no way the brahmachari carried this deity, because the deity was big and heavy, and so they had to accept. So here there was an example. Krishna came, you know, even though to us he was a big metal deity, but no, Krishna, he's personally there. Another story would be about Madhavendra Puri. Krishna, he likes to come to his devotees in dreams. I'm not so fortunate, so I know my level. But he did come to Madhavendra Puri, and Madhavendra Puri, of course, is very highly advanced and renowned. And he actually, what happened was, a deity revealed to Madhavendra Puri that he was inside a hill, and he wanted to be uncovered and brought out and a temple established, and that happened. And then the deity informed Madhavendra Puri that it was feeling hot, and he wanted him to go get sandalwood paste, which was very, very far. I'm sorry, I'm not really good on details, but he had to go a long distance. I don't know if he had to go to where the sandalwood was. And, huh?
He came to Puri, the king of Orissa, and the deity wanted Malayalcha sandalwood paste.
Yeah.
So the sandalwood was in Jagannath Puri, and the deity was in Vrindavan? Correct, yeah. So, and sandalwood is not light either, so, but Madhavendra Puri, he was told in a dream to go do it, and he went to go do it, and that's the first thing. You know, Krishna, he definitely communicates to his devotees, you know, even in dreams. And so then he was on his way back, and the deity said, you can just put it all over my form. I don't remember where that was.
Ramuna.
Ramuna?
Yeah.
It was in Ramuna. So what happened was, Madhavendra Puri, he was watching the pujaris in Ramuna serve the deity, and he saw that they were making him kheer, and he got this thought that he was wondering what it tasted like, because he wanted to kind of know the recipe so that he can make it for his deity. And then right away he thought he was like an offender, and he left right away because he felt so bad because the kheer hadn't been offered yet. And then lo and behold, in a dream, the pujari serving the deity was told, I hid a pot of kheer, and you need to go and find Madhavendra Puri and give it to him. So how about that? And then of course news got all over the place. Madhavendra Puri left right away because he didn't want all this fame, adoration, and distinction. But my point being that Krishna definitely interacts with his devotees. And another pastime, I don't remember who it is. One of the Goswamis, they were getting real old. I think it was one of the Goswamis, and they were having a hard time even putting the garland on their deity. And so the next day when he went to go serve the deity was sitting down. Who was that? Gadadhar. Oh, it was Gadadhar. Oh, okay. Here I was thinking it was one of the Goswamis. So Sri Gadadhar had gotten so old that it was really hard for him to serve his deity, and so the deity facilitated his seva by sitting down for him. And to this day, the deity is sitting down in the temple. And there was this story posted on Facebook, Prabhupada disciple, and I couldn't find the details, but he said that Prabhupada came in to see the Los Angeles deities, perhaps it was the first time even, and he was standing very, very close to Srila Prabhupada. Practically his ear was on top of Prabhupada's mouth, and he heard Prabhupada asking Rukmini Dwarkadish, are you doing okay? Are they serving you nicely? Are they giving you enough food? And so, and then later in the class, Prabhupada said, I see that you're serving the deity very nicely, and you're giving him nice prasad, and he's very pleased. And so, obviously, Dwarkadish, was having a conversation with Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada was talking to him. Then another one is, we have the interesting story of this, of Gauridas Pandit. And what happened was, he was very well liked by Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda. And they used to go to his house often. I need to look that up. So Gauridas Pandit, he was getting anxious because he knew Lord Nityananda and Lord Chaitanya were going to be leaving, and he was already feeling a separation from the deities. I don't know if I'm going to be able to. Oh, here we go. So, in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, it says, Gauridas Pandit, the emblem of the most elevated devotional service and love of God, had the greatest potency to receive and deliver such love, making Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda the lords of his life. Gauridas Pandit sacrificed everything for the service of Lord Nityananda. So, in Thakur Pandit's house, Lord Gauranga was dancing ecstatically, revolving around and around, while Lord Nityananda chanted, Hari, Hari. So Gauridas, he was crying, and he fell at the Lord's lotus feet, and he said, please don't ever go away from here. So to honor his request, Lord Chaitanya, Lord Nityananda manifested in a deity form. And still, Gauridas was distraught, and because he knew that they were going to leave, they left them deity form, but still he was feeling distressed. In fact, at one point in the story, it was saying how he so much didn't let Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda leave, even though they manifested two deities. Gauridas ended up cooking for 4 of them in his home, and he wouldn't let him leave. And then finally they had to go, and he was like, no, you stay, let the deities go. And then there was first the deities left, and then Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda stayed. Somehow they were going back and forth, the deities and Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda were switching positions to where Gauridas really didn't know who was the original Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda and who was them in their deity form. And then I found an interesting thing where it says that the deities actually, they were manifesting their own paraphernalia and their own jewelry and things like that. Gauridas was so dear to the Lord. Then another story which by coincidence my Vaishnava calendar said today is Odana Shasti. Now Odana Shasti is when Lord Jagannath gets new cloth for the winter. And what happened was Pundarik Vidyanidhi happened to be in Jagannath Puri, and he noticed that the cloth had not been cleaned before they offered them to the Lord. So I want to read here, translation. Pundarik Vidyanidhi initiated Gadadhar Pandit for the second time, and on the day of Odana Shasti, he saw the festival. Purport. At the beginning of winter, there is a ceremony known as Odana Shasti. This ceremony indicates that from that day forward, a winter covering should be given to Lord Jagannath. That covering is directly purchased from a weaver. According to the Archana Marga, a cloth should first be washed to remove all the starch, and then it can be used to cover the Lord. Pundarik Vidyanidhi saw that the priest neglected to wash the cloth before covering Lord Jagannath. Since he wanted to find some fault in the devotees, he became indignant. So that's an interesting fact there, that even such an exalted devotee as Pundarik Vidyanidhi, which we know, well, just to let you know, Pundarik Vidyanidhi was actually Radharani's father, Vrishabhanu, and Gadadhar, we know, is an expansion of Radharani. So it's not so, and here Gadadhar had taken initiation from Pundarik Vidyanidhi. So the next verse, this is in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Majia chapter 16, verses 78 to 81. Verse 79 now. When Pundarik Vidyanidhi saw that Lord Jagannath was given a starched garment, he became a little hateful. In this way, his mind was polluted. Verse 80. That night, the brothers, Lord Jagannath and Balaram, came to Pundarik Vidyanidhi and, smiling, began to slap him. Verse 80. Although his cheeks were swollen from the slapping, Pundarik Vidyanidhi was very happy within. This incident has been elaborately described by Thakur Vrindavan Das. I tried to look it up and my database fails me, but so that's kind of interesting, you know. Lord Balaram and Lord,
What did he do again?
they slapped him.
And what did he do, Pundarik? What did he do?
He chastised the pujari that he didn't wash the cloth. And I do remember the more details. I do remember hearing about the story, how Lord Jagannath told him to mind his own business, you know, that was the leela he had with his pujari, and it was okay with him. And Pundarik had no business to criticize and say anything. And and so another pastime where Krishna gets involved in his deity form is this wonderful story, the Lord of the Alvars. So there is a deity named Alarnath, and I believe we possibly heard this story a little earlier. So he was being served by a Brahmana. I'm trying to look for his dad's name. I saw it earlier. So what happened was the father had to go away. Okay, the father's name is Sri Caitanya. So Sri Caitanya had to go away, and he asked his son, Madhu, to make sure that he offered the foodstuffs to the Lord. And so it says here, Madhu told his father that he was only a small boy and did not know the mantras or procedures to offer bhoga to the Lord. Sri Caitanya told him that he should just put the offerings before Alarnath Dev and pray that he accepted them, and then he left. So this is what Madhu did, and later in the day, the mother asked that everything was prepared and that he should go offer it. And so he offered the bhoga, and then Madhu went outside to play with his friends. And 20 minutes later, he came back and he found that everything was still on the plate. And he was devastated. He was concerned because he was afraid that his father had told him to feed the deity, and if the deity doesn't eat, then the father's going to get mad at him. So then he started praying. Madhu started praying, "Oh my Lord, you have not eaten the food that I have brought for you. My father will be very angry with me. Please eat your meal." Again, he went outside to play, and he came back, and the offering was still there. So then Madhu started crying. He says, "My Lord, I understand that you are not eating because I am not qualified to offer to you. I am only a little boy. I don't know any mantras or procedures for worship, but please accept this offering." And then Madhu went outside, and when he returned, he found that the plate was empty. So he thought, my Lord has eaten. And with tears of happiness, he brought the now empty plate back to his mother. And the mother said, "Well, where's the prasad?" And Madhu said, "Well, Alarnath ate it." And the mother goes, "He ate everything?" And Madhu said, "Yes." And he went outside to play. So then the father comes back, and he's looking for the offering now. And the mother goes, "There isn't any. The Lord ate it." She said, "For 3 days we have not eaten." Madhu says that Lord Alarnath is eating everything. And then Sri Caitanya, he called his son, and he's like, "What's going on? You know, what are you doing with the offering? You're feeding them to the dogs? You're giving them to your friends? What's going on?" And Madhu's like, No, Narayan is taking everything. I'm not eating it." And the father's like, "Narayan is taking everything? Nonsense. He is made out of stone. How can a stone deity eat? You prove it to me. You go again and make another offering. I will hide on the altar and watch." And so that's exactly what happened. And, so the boy went before Alarnath and prayed, "My dear Lord, please accept this offering. My father has returned and is very angry with me. He thinks you're not eating." And after the boy left, Lord Alarnath, who is known as Bhavagrahi Janardhan, he who accepts the love of his devotees, reached down and picked up a pot of the sweet rice. Suddenly, Sri Caitanya jumped out from behind the pillar and caught the Lord's arm. The hot sweet rice flew up in the air and landed on the Lord's body in several places. Sri Caitanya said, "Stop! What are you doing? You are a deity. You cannot eat. Who ever heard of a deity eating? How will there be any prasad for us? How will we survive?" And although he was a priest for the Lord, the Brahmana Sri Caitanya was actually a materialistic person, and he had no faith that the Lord was real. And then the Lord told him, "O materialistic person in the guise of a Brahmana, for your offense, all of your family and descendants will be destroyed except for your son Madhu. I am pleased with his simplicity and devotion, and thus I have eaten his offerings. No matter how opulent, I am never pleased with an offering if it is made with no devotion and no faith in me." And according to the local history, a few days after this incident, a great tidal wave came from the nearby ocean and destroyed all of the Brahmanas in Brahmagiri except for Madhu. And to this day, the priests of O Lord Alarnath show the several places on the body of the deity where he was burned by the hot sweet rice that fell on his body that day. So, Krishna in his deity form is really there. And another story, there was a queen, and I don't remember her name, but she gave up her duties as a queen, and she was so renounced and so advanced, and she went and lived on the banks of the Jamuna. And then eventually she relocated to Jagannath Puri. And there was some ceremony was going on and it concerned the Ganga, and that's how come she ended up with the name Ganga Mata. And for some reason, inside the temple, she was in a female form. She wasn't allowed to engage in the ceremony for the Lord. But her hankering was so great. And what happened was, when she went to sleep, Lord Jagannath actually sent the Ganga river to Jagannath Puri and floated her into the deity room, and she couldn't get out. And in the morning, when the pujaris went and opened the door, they found her there, and they immediately arrested her because they thought she was in there stealing. But then Lord Jagannath revealed, no, this is my devotee, and I have brought her because she has such devotion. And to this day, there is a kund in Jagannath Puri, right near the temple, and everyone knows it to be the Ganga water. Do you know any details on that?
I don't know any details, but I know.
You kind of, so I kind of related.
I'm not great at details.
I related the story basically. It was okay because I did go to Jagannath Puri, and I was there at the kund, and I didn't go swimming, but there were, they like to go swimming there. And that's when I found out about this story. So here, Lord Jagannath, he engaged in helping his devotee fulfill her devotion. And I want to look up my notes because I have a notebook where this story is more detailed. So, okay, so now also we were talking in the verse how Lord Nityananda enacted the drama of Donna Kelly. So this is the second pastime I want to talk about. Now, Donna Kelly is this is when Krishna becomes the tax collector. And it happens in the summer. So first of all, it's a very, very sweet pastime when Lord Krishna starts asserting himself that he is the king of Vrindavan, because his father is the king, and he goes and he sets up these tax booths, and it's right when he has started to he's grown to the Podanga. He is. I'm trying to remember what's the name of his age? Podanga. Poganda age. So what's happening is Krishna, he's starting to become aware of the girls, and the girls, they're aware of the boys, but there hasn't been much communication yet. So Radharani, she just really communicates to her girlfriends that she's noticed this boy, and Krishna, he has communicated to his boyfriends, and he has specifically 4 Priya Narmas. I only got the 3 names: Mangala, Subal, and Ujvala. And Subal is Radharani's brother, and so he looks pretty much a lot like Radharani with his hands and his face and his feet. And so what happens was the gopis, they would carry the ghee and yogurt and milk they have to go across the river to sell at the market. And so Krishna, he's noticed especially Radharani, and so he goes and sets up a tax booth along the road, and also he does this even when Radharani and the gopis go to try and collect flowers. Krishna sets up a tax booth and doesn't allow them to enter the forest where the flowers are, and says, "You have to pay me a tax." So this is a very sweet interaction, and there's 2 books that were written about this Leela, And Krishna here, he says, I am the king, and everyone has to pay a tax. And a lot of times the gopis at this point in their age, you know they have to do these different things. Radharani's always going to the Surya Mandir to make offerings to the sun god, and they're always on the lookout. And so Krishna and Radharani, they both have their different groups of parrots who spy on each other. And Krishna's parrot, he comes back and he lets Krishna know what path the gopis are taking today and what they're doing. And Radharani, she has her parrot letting her know, where Krishna is and what he's doing, and she's always trying to avoid that path. And sometimes they would take the really long way around just to stay away from Krishna, because they haven't really met formally yet or informally yet. They just, they're not really interacting yet. They're just kind of like giving each other these sweet, interested, sidelong glances, and their hearts are racing, and they're having heart attacks over Krishna. He's wondering, who is this gopi? She's stolen my heart, So Rupa Goswami, he wrote the book Danakeli Kumudi, and Raghunath Das Goswami, he wrote the book Danakeli Chintamani. And in Rupa Goswami's book, he emphasizes that bhakti ras cannot be gotten from simply reading poetry. So he makes this point in his book because, of course, the people, they have their different poets that they are inclined to read, and Rupa Goswami wants to point out that just because you read these poetries, that you cannot derive bhakti. The poetry can be a vehicle to express the bhakti, but from an advanced devotee, and that the advanced devotee is expressing a realization. So, okay, so I'm told to stop here, and we can.
Take a moment.
Yeah.
We can take it because the class needs to end at 8:45. I need to put the note there.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So. Okay, I hope we got everybody. One thing in this lecture I was listening to, they were talking about the situation with the parrots. First of all, the parrot is the carrier of Kamadev. We have the different swan carrier and Garuda, and Shiva has his bull, Nandi, but the parrot is the carrier of Kamadev, and the parrots, they always go around in pairs. There's always two of them, and they're very faithful to each other. They're monogamous, and they have a very, very strong bond. Okay, and I would recommend, if anybody can possibly have time, to look into the Danakeli Leela, because the acharyas go into very much detail about the different kinds of moods and emotions that Radharani experiences when she's starting to interact with Krishna, and it's very, very deep from the in Anuraga and the Kelly Kinchita, that Radharani, when Krishna put up the tax booth inside, she was very happy that she would get to interact with Krishna, and like that. And like I said, this was when they were first noticing each other, so it's not like they had already been, you know, running off to the caves and Govardhan Puja yet. They hadn't. And like that. So I'm told, actually we usually read the verse again. I want to read this, the last one. Sri Gadadhar Das was always fully absorbed in ecstasy as a gopi. In his house, Lord Nityananda enacted the drama Donna Kelly. Okay, so please, anybody have any comments, any questions, any additions, any corrections? Anybody know details on some of the stories?
Yeah, regarding the Shraddha ceremony, which is performed by the royal family of Krishnanagar, until the day they are bringing the deity of Gopinath from Krishnanagar to Mayapur, and the residents of Mayapur, they are bringing their offerings to the deity of Gopinath as a Shraddha ceremony, because they believe that Lord is doing Shraddha ceremony of his father, so we should participate, we should help the Lord in this ceremony.
Oh.
So they are doing this festival every year.
Govinda Ghosh, right?
Yeah, Govinda.
Yeah. Do they bring the offerings out along the road like we've seen, or they just go to the one place at the end?
They are bringing the deity on a boat from Krishnanagar.
On a boat?
Yeah. Still the deity they're keeping on a boat in the River Ganga.
Yeah.
And everyone is bringing the offering. They are doing all this offering on the
Along the banks?
Yes, on
They
the
bring
banks.
it to, and then the boat comes in and accepts the offering as he's on his way to Mayapur. Oh, I missed that pastime.
And they're also bringing the swan carrier of Lord Brahma, which is a Hamsa Vahan, to Mayapur. Nowadays they are also bringing.
From Krishnanagar?
No, the place is. That place comes also in the Mayapur Parikrama, where the Lord Shiva and Lord Vishnu is there in a half and half.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so they're bringing that swan carrier from there to Mayapur nowadays. Now they're bringing every year to celebrate the festival.
All right. What is it? Harihara?
Harihara Kshetra.
I'm thinking of, you know, the half Shiva, half
Yeah, it's a Harihara Kshetra.
Harihara Kshetra. Well, Kshetra means the place.
The place, yeah.
Very good. Yeah, so that's why Lord Gopinath was on the cart. They weren't showing that it was moving yet, so I didn't realize. Well, they had him on a cart, but possibly the cart takes him to the boat, and then he goes from Krishnanagar to Mayapur. Yeah, Krishna, you know, to us, he looks like stone, but he's not.
Thank you for all these amazing stories. I was reflecting on what, or maybe you know, on what strength that brahmachari who had Gopinath deity tested, what's the word, witnessed, and testimony.
Shakshi Gopal.
Shakshi Gopal. So what was so special that Krishna did to him, that Krishna was willing to do it? That Shakshi Gopal, what was so special about this brahmachari?
He believed, he had full faith that Krishna was there in his deity form, and Krishna witnessed the promise. And he didn't want the elder Brahmana to suffer a reaction from reneging on his promise in front of the deity. I mean, even today, sometimes, you know, if we have a really important situation going on and somebody's denying something, we'll say, okay, let's go before the deity. Yeah. So he had unflinching faith, deep devotion. Krishna's there, Krishna witnessed, and he made a promise, and it's his brahmana. So the brahmachari was like, okay, Krishna, you know, you witnessed, and they're doing this. He had full faith.
And another thing I was just curious, when Radharani started to cook for Krishna.
Say that again?
When Radharani started to cook for Krishna, because Yeah.
Early on, because
Because you said that they never met, right?
correct.
And they were just looking at each other.
Yeah. Well, it was when Durvasa, she went to go Durvasa Muni came and visited, or he was on the banks or something, and her mother sent Radharani with some offerings, and she had cooked them, and Durvasa was so happy, so pleased with her offering, and so he gave Radharani the benediction that anything that she cooks, somebody would be healthy or something?
Yes.
Healthy? And so then Mother Yasoda heard about this benediction, and she went and asked Radharani, okay, you come every morning and you cook for my Krishna, because she wanted Radharani's cooking for her Krishna. She wants the best for her Krishna. So it was right around that time.
So they never, I don't know, I was just giving.
Well, they used to peek at each other, because I remember Krishna, he was able to be on a balcony or something and peek into the kitchen, and he would be seeing Radharani cooking. I remember that information. Yes?
Regarding the promise in front of the deity, I remember one of the European devotee, Brahmachari, he was sharing his pastime. He was coming to India and Mayapur. So before he started his journey, the temple president, he brought that Brahmachari in front of the deity and gave water and tulsi in his hand and asked him to promise in front of the Lord that he will never leave ISKCON, because I find many devotees, they are coming to the India and they are influenced by the other ashrams or other Gaudiya Math. So they left ISKCON and they are joining that Gaudiya Math.
Yeah.
So you promise that you will never leave ISKCON.
Jai. Very nice, smart Pujari.
I missed the beginning, so who was doing it?
Temple president, he made the promise with the brahmachari that he will
What?
not do this.
Is that Sankarshan Nitai?
But which temple?
In Europe.
In Europe? Oh, in Europe. Oh, okay. Because Sankarshan Nitai, he was TP of Mayapur.
Famous event is Lord Srinadev in Mayapur, you know. So the Pujari, he was going to
got the
Lord
eyes?
Srinadev every morning. He was actually putting on the light, you know, the light switch, you know. And then Lord Srinadev like that. So one morning, one night, when the Brahmachari was in his bed, suddenly he was taken by two hands so strongly and shaken. And when he woke up, he could see Lord Srinadev, you know. And he told him, don't switch on the light in the morning. And he had his marks on his shoulders. And the Brahmachari was jumping up out of the bed and running the long beating up and down, you know. He had only a gamsha on, you know. And then suddenly he thought, I have to go and do obeisances to Lord Srinadev and actually excuse myself. So he ran with his gamsha to the temple, and he actually made obeisances to Lord Srinadev. And only when he went up, he found out that the only
Realized.
clothing he had was his gamsha, you know. And he was.
And the marks.
You could see the marks on his shoulder. You know?
Wow.
Actually,
Yeah.
I've been mentioning Dave's story too for my part, since you brought it up. Remind me.
Jai, nice Nrsingadev pastimes here. Yeah, Lord Nrsingadev. He saved me a couple of times, let me tell you. He did.
I hear you on that one. There was a story about Lord Srinadev. You know, he has the red eyes. Well, I can't remember exactly what year it was, but when I was there for Reciprocating in 2018, I was reading a pamphlet on him. And basically what happened was they swapped his eyes out.
Correct, yeah.
And then
I know about
he went
this
to
story.
Brahmachari in his dreams said, give me my eyes back. I can't see. So I guess what I was trying to say is you never want to change the deity's eyes. Because, especially the ones they start with. Because that's what they take the, you know, I'm not sure exactly what you call it, but the puja that brings them into the deity. So that's their original eyes. So no matter what they are, I don't want to change them because that's what they used to see. And he actually appeared in the Brahmachari's dream.
Yeah.
He said, give me my eyes back.
Yeah.
I did not see
Red. I
anything.
think he wanted red. They put
He wanted the red ones. They put
wanted
white back
different
because they
color.
said the red looked a little too evil.
Ah.
And well, he
The
got
story
that.
goes on, you know.
Yo,
The story goes on in the way that this lady came to, I think she was Spanish speaking. She came to Mayapur and she was in front of Lord Shinade. And Lord Shinade said, go to Pujari and tell him, I want my eyes back.
Nice. I didn't know that.
Correct, yeah.
They
Yeah.
said to Baba Shamli, but Baba Shamli did not act, you know, said,
Yeah, yeah,
is
yeah.
this true, you know, is this just her imagination, whatever.
But then he
So
went
then
there.
it happened again after 3 days. The lady was again a message from Lord Nishinade, I want my eyes back. So finally they went back to he went back again to Pampajangri, and then they changed the eyes.
Yeah.
And the ladies, I don't remember, she had a sort of illness or something, and then she was completely cured after Lord
Yes.
Oh,
I remember that.
yeah.
Yes, I remember that. It's in the
Yeah,
picture. That's
I
awesome.
remember.
That's great.
That's why I have to research, because like you forget these details.
He reminded, Jaggers reminded me of that.
Yeah.
That's great, thank you.
There is another story about Jagannath in Rajapur, in Mayapur. So the Pujari at the Jagannath temple, they were not able to serve the Lord. They wanted to hand over the temple to the ISKCON. But the majority of the people who are living near the temple, they are Muslims. And they had a plan to take over all the property of Lord Jagannath. So when they find out that the Pujari is negotiating with ISKCON, they wanted to hand over the seva. So they wanted to stop everything, and they came and they just as the Pujari. So in the night time, the head of that area, he had a dream that Lord Balaram is sitting on his chest and holding his neck, and that if you try to stop the seva of my brother, I'm going to kill all of your family members. So in the morning time, he came to Mayapur, he asked for apology, he said, we wanted to help you everything whatever you want. And since then, I came to know that when they have a first crop in their field, they offer it to the Lord Jagannath. And when they are doing the wedding ceremony before the Jagannath Yatra, most of the local people, including the Muslims, they come and they beg Lord Jagannath.
They came and bathed?
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
have a quick one off the Jagannath. Because those deities are extremely
Jai
special,
Jagannath.
if I could say it. Go ahead.
Oh, I forgot my own
Okay.
Gyan.
Real quick, I just wanted to say like about the Jagannath deities in Mayapur, how special these
Uh-huh.
deities are. Now, for a while, these deities were missing. And when I don't know the full details, so I'll make it really quick. When they found the deities, the Jagannath deities, they were buried in a mound of dirt. But this was a termite mound.
In Rajpur?
It was in a different location. Those deities, those particular deities, the Jagannath deities in Rajapur
Uh-huh.
were found after they lost them
Oh.
in a termite mound.
Oh, I
They were
didn't
not
remember
touched.
that. Oh.
They were not touched. Yeah.
I thought they had been worshipped for,
No, well, they were. and
So
then
long in the
they ended up
temple.
getting lost. And then when they did find them, I believe they came to somebody's dream. Don't quote me on this.
Yeah.
But when they did go find them, they were buried in a termite mound.
and a termite
And they were
mound.
not touched, of course. Which is
Yeah.
like one of the coolest things ever.
Yeah.
So it was pretty amazing, pretty special.
Die. All right, come on, we gotta end.
Actual story is that during the Muslim time, during the Muslim rule in India, this deity, they were taken out from Puri in Bengal.
Thank you.
And in the course of time, there was no Pujari to serve, so they were like in a forest. So they were found out later on by some royal family. Since then, this Pujari family they were serving till it was handed over to ISKCON.
Yeah. Thank you for clarifying.
Oh, okay.
Thank you for that class. I was just thinking, this is such nice stories. I guess I was thinking about where we can draw the line between, how not to allow speculation in the deity worship. Because there are rules, right? But also we hear so many stories how deities reciprocate with pujaris, with devotees. But then how can we, is there, if you had any insights on that, how can we understand, because we can't just go on by, oh Lord told me they want this.
Well, if he did, you can.
Yeah, I don't know, I guess I was just thinking how we can still follow the rules and explain others that there are rules in deity worship and it's very important, but still these stories are happening. I mean, if you had any insights, it just something came up in my mind.
No, I don't. I know
because
one.
I heard that deity worship is very strict. It needs to be very particular and very strict, but then you hear all the stories and I don't know what to think.
I have an opinion on that, I guess.
I'm not sure I really understand exactly what you're saying.
How much allow speculation in deity worship? That I do something what I want to do, I feel like Lord told me to do it. But there is particular rule how we do the deity worship. I guess this is my question.
Well, it seems to me that different, okay, I was going to say the different things that we're hearing are actually backed up by Shastra, although it is a fact that with Pundarik, he knew the rule that you're supposed to wash the cloth first. So...
Yeah, because with this particular story, this is what fault finding. I understand.
Yeah, and that's interesting too.
It's supposed to be look for faults in devotees, but if it's just the pure intention, oh my God, he was supposed to worship. Maybe Lord Jagannath won't like it. And is the mood different or something?
I guess it's individuality and consciousness.
I was going to say, I think it's all based on your faith and devotion and your belief. And if you make a mistake, because we are human, you're going to make a mistake. You can't really beat yourself up about it.
Yeah. And Krishna does like variety, so he likes to change things up sometimes,
But why then we have deity worship ministry and all this?
I'm sorry?
Why do we have at first place deity worship ministry and there are rules, right? Like why we ask him, is it right or is it not right to do?
But there's always exceptions to the rule. Generally, an advanced devotee always realizes, he considers himself unadvanced. So I would think that generally a devotee wouldn't change things. But then what happened with Lord Nrsingadev? Somebody changed his eyes. And Prabhu's just saying that when a deity is installed, that, the eyes that he has, specifically Lord Nrsingadev, he'll have the conch shell eyes, as opposed to Lord Krishna, he gets his eyes painted. So the devotee, he thought to change his eyes, and lo and behold, Lord Nrsingadev let him know, no, I want my other eyes back. So I think sometimes if a devotee, out of wanting to be personal, thinks, that some change needs to be made, like specifically even with our noon offering. Sometimes we'll get a pujari and they feel that generally we don't put water glasses on the plate. But there was this one pujari and she was adamant, no, I want to offer some water with the foodstuffs on the plate. Or now we have a pujari, and instead of just putting the spoon on the plate, she likes to actually put it inside the bowl, ready for Krishna to use. So this is it's a mood of wanting to be personable and wanting to be considerate of the Lord's needs. So there's room for individuality. There's room for, changing some things, right?
Details. This is not the principle. These are details.
Correct. Not the principle. Yeah, I think that perhaps we need to go along those lines. That the details can, be different, but the principle.
But I just have to say, maybe an international organization. Srila Prabhupada set up the standards, If he would take this free, you can imagine in 50 years how deity worship would look like, So, it's defined, Radha Pancharatma, what we have to do. And Srila Prabhupada emphasized this, and therefore that we follow these rules, the GBC set up a deity ministry, so that we really follow it, And I would say if somebody has this inspiration to really change something, they would have to connect up to the deity minister to find out if something can be changed, Because Science shows that religious movement, they change substantially after the founder is gone, you know. And first it's some rules, and then it's the mood, and then it's the content, and so on, you know. And it's very dangerous that after 50 years, 100 years, 200 years, it's going to look completely different, you know. And Srila Prabhupada said that from a very stringent way, how we should worship the Lord, how we should have a temple program, and so on. And you cannot find any other sampradaya who is so strict how it all should be done. But Srila Prabhupada said for 10,000 years, and his books are below books, and that's what he wants us to do. So therefore, it's a very delicate topic there, and really we have to discuss this with the daily ministry.
Okay, all right, good. Jai. Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita Ki Jai.
Jai.
Thank you all for attending.
Small announcements, you may have heard that tomorrow evening, hopefully, we have